Hey YouTube, this morning I want to talk to you about leverage and some things I did to create a better situation for myself and how I actually went through, a lot of grinding and working lots of hours to create certain skill sets and certain things, and also, some awareness of what I'm doing today that I need to stop doing. And so let's get right into it. Number one, I spent a lot of time looking at YouTube and different people and seeing what they did. And the thing that I would point out about that is that these people are not bad and the things that they do might be helpful. But if you go out there and you run hard and you do all the things David Goggins does, and sit-ups and push-ups and pull-ups and things, you'll end up in great shape and broke. David Goggins actually created a platform. He has a reputation. He does these things. This is who he is. This is how he does motivational speaking and all kinds of things. So be careful to do what you see someone doing or what they say to do. Be aware of what they're actually doing might be different from that. And I learned that from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins talked about a person named Jim Rohn. He listened as he was a janitor to Jim Rohn every day in the job that he had cleaning buildings, and instead of doing what Jim Rohn said to do, he went out and did what Jim Rohn did. And now Tony Robbins was a great motivational speaker and teaches people a lot of things. But if you look through YouTube, I was on vacation this weekend, and that's one of the few times I have television, and I'm flipping through these channels with my wife, and pretty much I know every single show because I've watched so many clips on YouTube that it is just ridiculous, and that is just a waste of my time that I have and I do. And so, is that good? No. Now I do watch Ben Mallah, who's here, has some good content on real estate. David Goggins brings me some inspiration and things, so it's not bad to have those things. But be aware as you're creating this situation that what they're saying to do is not necessarily what they did in that situation. So for me, I bought the first house because it was selling for 50-something thousand. It was worth 90, so it was so low. I just been to Warren Buffett's meeting talking about investment, so it was fresh in my head what I was looking for. And I saw it, and I was like, that's what I'm looking for. So I went through and fixed it up with them and some other people. They had better skill sets probably than I had at that point. And so we were all in there together doing it, and we did it for, I would say, months. It was not a hard fix-up. We just didn't know what we were doing. And so we all didn't know what we're doing together. And we all participated in the upside of that property also, which is how I paid them. Property number 2, we were in there. We were doing the same thing, and I remember the list of things we needed to do to get the house done. And I look at it one day, I compare it to what everyone's working on an entire week, and no one's working on anything on the list. So I literally had to hire someone to work on the list. People were doing, what they knew to do, what they thought was smart to do, and so that was difficult. The third house I didn't have them involved in, someone else involved in, and I was out there every day after work, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all day Saturday, Sunday after church, for probably 3 months of my time. The last probably month and a half, I got these people involved I worked with before, who were great, and they jumped in and helped me at least push the momentum 3 times as fast, maybe more than I was myself. That motivates me, having those people around me. But gradually over time, I got better at the fix-up process. I found that some things going outside of our company was so much cheaper and faster that I just did that. And I did fix-ups in the place I live in Arkansas, and then I also did them in Missouri. And so I did it remotely, and I did that to build the skill set. So I started building my skill sets of how to manage this fix-up. At a certain point, Jason hurt his back, so I had him run the fix-up, which was kind of an elevation of where I was, and he was running it. We were hiring a lot of the work, and that was a growth moment. But through the fix-ups, I learned and changed the process, and at this point, I feel like I know, 8 things we're doing wrong in the fix-ups, but, we've corrected 15, 20 things that we're doing. And so I'm leveraging none of those skill sets. Number 2, and I'm leveraging always money and thought process. What I bring to the situation is the thought process about the situation. One thing that I bring specifically is I will look at a very complex business that we're running, and I look at it to see what their actual business is. So if you look at McDonald's, the business they're making money on is real estate. And so, for instance, let's say someone came to McDonald's and they said, we're making money on hamburgers, so they try to leverage and scale up their hamburgers. That wouldn't do anything for them because they're actually making money in real estate. And so if you're making money in real estate, what you want to scale up is your real estate. Walmart makes money on logistics, shipping things around, so they sell things cheaper so they can ship more things. And so understand, as you have these complexities in your business, you might be doing roofing, you might be doing construction or flips. Understand what your business actually is. It may be a component of each of those things. Maybe you can buy shingles at an advantage price versus everyone else. And so what you really should be scaling up is your purchasing and use or purchasing and sale of shingles, right? So understand what your business actually is, what your personal, what you bring. People say whether to work on your strengths or your weaknesses. I don't have a disparity there. What I would say is know what your business is and where you bring the value. But for instance, let's say you're a plumber and you charge $35 an hour because you're a jerk, right? You do a great plumbing job and you say, I'm just a plumber. Well, what if you went and spent time studying body language and how to relate with people and things, and then your hourly rate went to $50 an hour? Or you figured out how to manage people so you could have 3 people working under you, and now you're making $100 an hour, right? Well, maybe that wasn't your strength, but if you sometimes look at your weakness and how it's limiting you, possibly just changing that weakness some can allow you to leverage up how much you're actually producing at a massive scale. Now, it might be hard. For me, a lot of what I was doing was reading body language. I didn't know other people's perceptions of me, and so it allowed me to operate and pursue things in a very different way. Meaning, 10 people think this is dumb, I can still go do it and be successful. But I didn't know what they thought, and so at the same time, this is a good thing. I took 6 months to learn how to read body language and to learn how to understand how people are perceiving me better, and that helped me to get to the next level in some of the things I was doing. So you can leverage to understand your strengths. You can leverage what you bring to the table, which for me is thought process and capital. And you can leverage into your weaknesses if you can take your weakness from the worst person on the planet to okay, now you're average. Maybe that was your limiting factor to allow you to triple what you were making. And so understand that, but the game is about increasing what you're overall able to produce. Now, one thing I did that I'll suggest also that might be practical was I learned how to work in the zone. I learned that for the hardest tasks, I turn on a Kenny Rogers gambling music and turn it on repeat. I have some caffeine, and I just allow myself to zone into that situation and only that one task. Everything else is off. My phone is off. Everything's off. And I zone into that task, and I've realized in an hour and a half maybe I can produce the results that most people do in 2 or 3 days on a hard task, especially if I'm in that zone. And so I have to create that situation though, and that is different for each people. So that's one thing I leverage, is the ability to get into the zone and to focus there. I also created the ability to start a task early, finish it, shut it down, and then be able to answer questions about why I didn't go further. People think everything has to be perfect, and it doesn't. It just has to be done. Especially in business, spending too much on a task can really be a hindrance to the business and to you. overanalyzing can be. So once the task is done, even if it's 2 months ahead of time, you can consider it done. It's done. Moving on to the next thing. And so that can be something that you leverage, that skill set. So, create skills. Skills can be leveraged. Money can be leveraged. For me, my biggest leverage now is definitely houses that I own and investments that I own. While I sleep, they probably make more than I do with my active input at this point. But those require some activity from me. So I want to take time today to share that with you. Thanks to my latest subscriber, 66, not very many, but more than I've had before. And, as I'm on here, I'm working on a weakness of mine, which is probably communication. And how do I portray a message across to an audience and not sound like a jerk? I mean, that's something I definitely am working on to be able to be better at, maybe less bad at. And so I appreciate your guys' help on that. Comment down below, like and subscribe if you've got time, you want to see some more things, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.